the cameraman over there with Channel 9.
With Channel 9?
I've known him forever, but I'm on
Komodo, right? I think it's Komodo. If I remember.
No, I know Chris.
Oh, okay, you know him.
Oh, that's all right. I got to introduce
you. I'm like, let me see who. Hello, how are you? I'm like, I don't know what you
right. Ready?
Yeah.
Is the PowerPoint going to work?
They were trying to get it up.
No. But you can go ahead.
They said they have it. It's just coming on here.
Yeah, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Press Club of Baton Rouge. I'm John Hightower, treasurer of the Press Club, and I wanted to make a housekeeping announcement first that we will be able to ask questions, but only those who are members of the media or an actual member of the Press Club will be allowed to ask a question. And remember that we don't want you to be the second speaker, so keep your question brief and get to the point. So it's my pleasure today to introduce Hillar Moore, our current district attorney. He's a longtime practicing attorney before, and I know he's got a lot to say, so I won't belabor my introduction, but we're proud to have Hillar. Hillar?
Thank you. So the PowerPoint is working. Great. I apologize for not bringing my computer, but we had it all worked out. So thanks for having me here today. I think probably what I'm going to say today, you've probably heard many times on the news or read in the newspaper or seen on television, but we are really at a point where we're struggling very bad at the office to keep up. And in my opinion, and I think everyone would agree here, that public safety should be the #1 commitment of any government, and everything else should be second to public safety. And in that regard, for BNDA now going on the 18th year, for the last 17 years, when we file our annual report, we advise the city council and the mayor where we are and where looks like where we're headed with regard to finances. And if you read those 17 reports, you will see that every year some alarms have gone off saying, hey, healthcare benefits and insurance are really getting higher, and we're having a really hard time. We're losing money here and there. We're getting more obligations to do. We're not really able to keep up with our workload. And as you know, we had the flood, which set us back a whole lot because things were really unorganized at that point. And then we ran into COVID. And not only were coincided with both of those were the flood year was a year that we had the lowest amount of homicides ever at that point, particularly at the time of the Alton Sterling homicide. That was the lowest that Baton Rouge had been in 30 or 40 years. And then everyone was displaced. And so we ended that year with a decent number, which is still too high as to where we should be for a city. Baton Rouge, to be comparatively with other cities, should have a homicide number of around 40 per year. We normally would in the past at average 83, but you recall that COVID year number was 150, then it went down to 120, then 112, last year 102. I think this year we are 14% below last year. I'm not sure, but we are below last year's numbers. So we're coming down from the COVID numbers, but we're not coming down as quick as other cities across the nation. I am happy to report that we are more rapidly than any other place coming down from the number of fentanyl overdoses and the number of fentanyl overdose deaths. And there's been a lot of work that's going into that. So that's something that's good for us. So I have this PowerPoint, and I do not want this PowerPoint to be negative or reflective against any one particular person or entity. I can tell you that for the past several months, as of last night, as of this morning, and as of Friday, we have been meeting with the mayor, the mayor's office, with various mayors from other incorporated areas to try to come up with some ideas, meeting with city councilmen, meeting with state legislators, and anyone that we can talk to about where are we, what can we do. So everyone has a difference of opinion as to what needs to be done and how we can do it. But bottom line, we are in apparently a financial situation that is dire. And in addition to that, everyone here knows how badly we need a parish prison and a juvenile detention center. The warden would be glad to take you guys through a tour of either one of those two, well, for the parish prison, not juvenile detention, but parish prison for sure. We've been discussing this for 40 years. We've studied it many times. We have so many reports that we've spent so much money, but that is a big money ticket, and we need to have a parish prison that is safe. And right now, we are in an extreme position with the parish prison, and that is in addition to the monies that we're talking about that we need now, we surely need a new parish prison. So if you would, Vanna White, so I'll skip through this really quick. We do have a lot of unfunded state mandates, and we've had an inequitable distribution of cost and burden sharing across the different jurisdictions, particularly with regard to Baton Rouge. If you saw about 2 months ago, there was a study that was done by, I call her Ms. Canizero, I forget her married name, but she looked at how the state distributes monies across the state to judicial districts. And it looked like Orleans Parish for the last 20 years have been looked upon favorably, and one number, their court system received $8 million more per year than any other court system. And the question is why. That number's been the same for the last 20 years. That's something that we really need to take a look at, and everyone has vowed to look at that and change that. So I think within a year or a year and a half, that will change, and that will help at least the court system to some degree in Baton Rouge. Next. So sticker shock, the budget that we asked for this year is $22.6 million. That's a 173% increase as to what I thought was reasonable and necessary to keep up with my constitutional obligations to do what I do, it is to prosecute those cases and to help others that need second chances. And that's part of the job, as well as prosecuting cases and taking care of victims. Obviously, the cost of my office is passed down to the citizens, and that is tough. That's a big number. If I would have had, if the tax would have passed, the DA tax, it would have been a gross of $24 million per year, but I would have seen 21 out of the 24, the sheriff and others get their cut from that for doing the job that they do. And 21 million seems to be a lot. I'm currently at between 14 and 16, so to give me several $1 million more that I could have kept up. So I want to let you know that at 14, 16, I say that because $2 million of our budget is passed through for family support, so it's really not our money, it's just passed through for attorneys. Jefferson Parish, as of last year, a few months ago, they went for their council. Their budget is $26 million. They have had 18 homicides last year. They have 75 assistant DAs. I have, by law, I'm given warrants for 55. At this point, I have between 48 and 50 because I cannot fill those other spots. Because a warrant for the DA's office is worth $50,000 per person, and I can't hire a lawyer for $50,000. For a brand new lawyer out of law school, we try to pay them $80,000, so that costs me $30,000 more for health care benefits and retirement, and that's what the bottom line cost is for me. So as many warrants as I have, I still have to come up with an additional 30 for a bare minimum number. And Jefferson is a wealthy parish. They have money that they're able to do that. They have 55 warrants, the same number as Baton Rouge has, but they're able to hire an additional 25. And again, compare 18 murders versus last year, 102. Where would you rather work as an assistant DA in the parish? It's fairly easy. And then compare that to the warrants for Orleans. The warrants that they have are 83 compared to my 55. Our numbers are the same as with regard to homicides and violent crime. And I think they use maybe 63 of their 83 warrants. They're able to stack warrants on top of each other to pay a ADA $100,000. So not complaining about my fellow DAs who are friends of mine, but over the years, Orleans has gotten the bulk of money, gotten the bulk of ADAs, Jefferson has been able to generate. So you go to the next slide. So if you take a look at this slide, this is where we're lagging behind. And this is how the gap just keeps widening every year. I am told that Orleans is scheduled to take maybe a hit of $1 million to $2 million, which may bring them down to 22. But Jefferson is really at 26 now, and we're at 16 million, with 2 of that again being pass-through money for family court. Excellent. So we're forced to do a lot more with a lot less, and this is what we, the citizens of Baton Rouge, pay per capita for the DA's office. So you see us at $35 compared to Jefferson 58, Orleans 63. So we're just not paying quite as much, obviously, as our other 2 neighboring parishes. And as you all know, we're the largest parish in the state of Louisiana. Next. Also, the state has not kept up with the support for the office, for the constitutional offices. That's the study that I told you about by Ms. Canizero and others. You'll see where we compare in state funding to Jefferson and Orleans. Again, been a historical thing for 20 years. I think a lot of it has to do with politics and who's asking and who's getting what, who's at the table and who's not. Next. So this is a support, parish support by for DA's office. If I have a surplus this year, it may be $50,000 or $60,000, which is bad, really bad. And the city parish bailed us out of the end of the year hole with $500,000. Look at Jefferson Parish's surplus at $20 million. That's my entire budget. I would surely like to have that surplus, but obviously do not. Next. So some things that we're just unable to control. This one may be a little more difficult to look at, but if you just look at the graph numbers, this is all Baton Rouge. We just continue to decline in fines and forfeitures. Some of those are being waived, and we're not getting those. Or federal grants have really dried up a whole lot. That pays for a lot of our victim services. That's dried up a ton. The DA's office, I remember when Brian Bush was the DA and Osa Brown, everyone was using the check. I am still old and I do still use checks, but hardly no one uses checks anymore. And when you bounce a check, the DA will get the check and get the money paid back, and the DA will get like 20%. And the DA's offices were able to fund themselves off of check collection fees. That rarely happens now. Narcotic seizure funds is a little different. That has been up, and that's attributed to the sheriff's office, who has been extremely aggressive with fentanyl and guns and drugs, and that has helped us to a degree. Unfortunately, of the bulk of 100% of the money seized, the DA's office receives 12%. Other agencies receive the majority, although we actually are the lawyers that do the representation. Pre-trial diversion numbers are down, and obviously we have very little interest on the little bit of money that we have in reserves. Next. Continue unable to control. Overwhelming number where our money goes to is just payroll. We used to have 160 employees. I think we're down to 125 or 130. So what we've been doing over the last 2 years, particularly this year, when we heard that the mayor indicated there would probably be budget cuts, and there were the same indication last year, as we lost an employee, whether it be a secretary, lawyer, analyst, investigator, we just wouldn't fill that position. And so we prepared for the end of this year, just in case we're told you're getting cut again, that we're in a position to handle that maybe better than we would have otherwise. And that's just attributable to some good folks that have an office that are able to manage that. Next. So to see the personnel cost, you look at the differences between Orleans, Jefferson, and Baton Rouge, and the numbers are striking. We are much less money to pay our employees than the other 2 offices. Also, to note, it's not your concern or issue, but it is mine. The DA's employees in the office have not received a raise in 4 years. We normally would give raises out toward the end of the year, and employees know that. They have come to try to expect that. We've tried to save money as far as going to even recycling print cartridges. That did not turn out well over the years. The money just wasn't there anymore. So employees are being told at the end of every year, sorry again, we have no money to give you a raise. It's real difficult to try to hold on to employees when that happens. Also, as a side note, in the DA's office in years past, we were able to pay them a decent amount of money, just a livable expense, and the stress levels were not near what they are today with cell phones, social media, computers, gangs, groups, fentanyl, the number of cases that we have, the number of homicides. Rarely would it be that someone would leave the office for another job, unless it's for a judge, United States attorney. Over the last 30 months, over the last 16 months, I've lost 30 assistant district attorneys. And the ones that I've lost have been incredible people, moms and dads, male, female, black and white, you name it. I've lost them. Fortunately, on a few have become United States attorney. Several have become city court and or district court judges. Many have gone to the Attorney General's office. So the governor was the Attorney General, and he then became the governor, and he knew who he wanted to take from the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General became the Attorney General. She knew, and they had stolen a few employees when the governor was there, and they all know who my really good assistant DAs are. So Liz came poaching in my backyard, and I told her that she had to stop. She says she signed the truce. She's not taking any more. But when she's able to pay them $30,000 more and compare a workload of 400 to 50 or whatever the number is, I'm not sure of the number, and give them a raise of $40,000, it's a no-brainer. It really hit me a year and a half ago when she took someone who was a section chief of mine, a mother, 3 children, and the lady came in crying, as most do, said, I really hate to tell you this, I already know what it is. You don't even have to hand me the envelope. You're leaving and you're going to the Attorney General, something like that. Yes, Hillar, I really want to stay here. I like the work. I love the people. It's a family, but I cannot be a mother to my 3 children and work here on the weekend and work here at night. I said, you must go. You have to go. That's the right thing for you and your family. And that's been pretty much the occasion for all of those that have left. And but hopefully we'll make good ties with them as things go in the future. I want to also happily report that I did have one section chief that left to go into the private practice, making more money than I can pay for her. She called and asked if she could come back to the office, that she missed the work and missed the people. She came back, and I did not fill her position as section chief. She's now back as a section chief, and she put on a really nice show at our Thanksgiving dinner last Thursday, where she told the ADAs how proud she was to be an ADA, and that she had been around the state and have dealt with other assistant DAs and DAs offices, and how she thought that the office here in Baton Rouge was much more professional than she'd seen otherwise, and she wanted to come back, and we obviously welcomed her back. So I thanked her, and I think her story meant a lot to those people who are really hanging in there. Next. So unfunded mandates, we've had a lot of mandates by the state that suggest what we're required to do, different things that we're, reports that we have to make. When they tell us we have to do these things, it does not come with any money, and it causes us some issues with that. Also, the erosion of local support has been really traumatic for us in Baton Rouge. Next. So the efforts, what have you done to try to fix your problem? Well, we quit hiring, quit filling spots. We've warned everyone that we can warn that we're in trouble. And I do thank my news reporter friends who are here today, all of them. They have really carried the story, and I think they've been extremely accurate with the stories that they present. And I do appreciate the media for their reporting. We just have to come up with an answer. You guys know I went out for a tax proposal, raised $400,000 from friends of mine. Nobody wants to take my phone call anymore for fundraising. And it cost $60,000, I think, to run that election. I still owe that $60,000 to Nancy Landry, has not been knocking my door down for it. But the tax probably came at a rough time. people probably not trusting, not wanting additional taxes, although it was specifically for the DA. It would have also helped the public defender by a tune of $8 million. It just didn't work. So we are also considering amending the statute to make it really clear that all of the entities are required to pay their constitutional fair share for the different constitutional offices. And that would be the court system, the sheriff, family court, juvenile court, district attorney, tax assessor, the coroner, and I may be missing one other office. But we're continuing to make awareness of the issues that we have, and we'll continue to do so. Next. So despite all that, we're still obligated to protect the public and be justice and public safety key holders, and that's what we'll try to do. The city parish, as you know, by law, is required to fund us to what's called a reasonable and necessary office. So what is reasonable and necessary? It's not defined anywhere. It's hard to define. Don't think that it will ever be defined. But in Orleans, it's a $24 million district attorney's office. And in Jefferson Parish, it's a $26 million district attorney's office. So what is reasonable and necessary when Baton Rouge is the biggest parish, knowing the numbers that we have of homicides that we've repeatedly had, knowing the backlog of homicides at over 200, knowing that we are way short-handed comparatively compared to the number of ADAs in Baton Rouge to Jefferson and Orleans. What is reasonably necessary to me? My answer was the $24 million millage. Obviously, that didn't work. That's where I think from my office is reasonable and necessary. And I am going to try to get a zero-based budget as to what my office would look like on a zero-based budget for what I think would be, at this point, an optimal DA's office to adequately protect the people. Next. So our primary source of funds is the general fund for East Baton Rouge Parish. And I think that when we talk to the mayors of the other cities, and they've been extremely cooperative with us. Mayor Yates from St. George called me yesterday, said, "Can you see me today?" Met with him today. Last Friday, the mayor, Baton Rouge Sid Edwards, met with 3 of the 4 mayors. One could not meet. And we talked about where we are and what can we do. All of those mayors vowed to try to assist in the help. One mayor from Central asked that I give him a zero-based budget as to what my office would look like optimally, and asked that all the other constitutional offices do the same. I think that's a fair request for someone to make, to say, tell me what's the bare bones, what do you need to make your office the best that it can be at a minimal zero-based budget, and we are working on that now. Some of the complaints or concerns that the mayors have expressed is that we believe through our general fund sales and property tax that are coming from our incorporated areas, that money is already going to the city parish, and the city parish should use better use of that money and fund the constitutional offices differently and make cuts in other areas. So they've asked to look at sales tax and property tax cut down to the city sales tax and property tax, the parish sales tax and property tax, and the industrial sales tax and property tax, to let us know how much money are we actually getting, how much money are we actually spending for constitutional offices versus other things like public works, et cetera. So that's a conversation that we are continuing to have. I hope to meet with the mayor and some of his folks this evening, following my meeting with Mayor Yates today. And I think those are questions that not only the mayors have, but citizens have, because obviously citizens have shown that they're not fond of just paying additional taxes unless they actually know they're absolutely needed and where they're going to go, and they're not going to be given to any other group or any other entity. So I think that we have to do a much better job of convincing the public who is not, at this point, not trustful of what's going on. Next. This is a revised statute, Title 16. This just tells us that the parishes must pay the operating costs of the DA, and it also says the DA does not have to drain any other funds, and the city parish must pay regardless of whatever money I have. For example, if I had $20 million in savings, it doesn't matter, they still have to pay. We would surely never do that here. If we had extra funds, we would tell the city I don't need quite as much this year, but that is not required by law. Next. So this is the seminal case, Reed versus Washington. It's out of St. Tammany Parish. The Supreme Court found that because of the importance of the constitutional functions performed by the DA, it's imperative that they have a reliable source, and we do not. So I will not know what my budget is until December 18th. And as you guys know, all constitutional officers were said stand by for 11% cut. I have no idea I'm going to take 11% cut, but the law says in my opinion, you can't do that. You must fund the district attorney's office as to what is reasonable, and that puts me now in a bad position if I'm cut again. What action does the district attorney take? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Next. This also says the DA just can't say it's reasonable. It has to be legitimate, and so I just can't ask for money that's not reasonable. That means that I may have to explain every cent, every penny, every request that I make, which is hard to do. So explaining reasonable and necessary is fairly difficult. Next. I think there's little to no confusion about it. Parish governments have to pay for the DA and the constitutional offices, and there are a lot of attorney general's opinions that bear this out. It is what the law is. Next. This just again affirms that Reed says there's a mandatory duty for the city parish to pay for the district attorney's office. Next. I recently received the legislative auditor's opinion that said that the enumerated entities within the city itself, the parish itself, also have to pay their fair share of the district attorneys and other constitutional offices. Next. This was the Brum case in 2022. It broke it down to 3 mandatory categories. It's mandated expenditures that are difficult to reduce and discretionary can be reduced, but the constitutional officers that, like the district attorney's office, cannot be. So even after the Reed decision, there's the Brum decision which enforces that. Next. And so what are the consequences? Underfunding leads to overwhelming caseload and delays jeopardizing fair and legal representation. That is an issue. We do see significant backlogs. We are not going to reduce the backlog at the level that we are funded now. It's the same not only with the DA's office, but with the public defender. And you will never hear me not ask for money for the public defender to be funded adequately. Next. Told you about the employees that are leaving. The increase in caseload and the severity of the caseloads just have really made things much more difficult for attorneys to keep up. Next. Delayed justice is not good, and it does slow things down in every regard that there is. Currently, we're looking at a gap of 2 to 3 years before a murder trial comes to trial, sometimes up to 5, sometimes up to 7. And oftentimes that victim of that murder is on their 3rd assistant district attorney, and they come to me wanting to talk to say, what's going on? And I'm telling them I'm losing attorneys. I can't keep up. It's not good for them. It's not fair for them. They need their day in court. You saw the Ryan Sharp case that ended Friday took 8 years, almost 9. That's a unique case. Next. So compromised legal representation and fairness, inadequate resources, insufficient funding leads to substandard legal representation, not only for victims but also for defendants. Next. So right now, to deny funding, we have us stepping over each other's toes. And next. So this operational failure, when we just can't fail at our office, we have too big of a deal of a job. Threatens justice and public safety. Legal conflict is likely. Hate to talk about this, but at the last budget meeting, I was encouraged by maybe not only the mayor but city council to please sue us. And it's not fun or good for someone to sue the hand that feeds them. And that would be in the form of a mandamus. That means, look what the law says. It's really clear. You must pay for what's reasonable and necessary, and you're not paying for what's reasonable and necessary, particularly if I receive an 11% cut. That means that I would have to, maybe along with the other constitutional offices have to file a mandamus against the city-parish. I think that's the proper defendant, not all of the other incorporated areas, and sue them to say, you must pay me. That means that I don't want to be responsible for your garbage only being picked up one day a week, or DPW being cut down, or whatever programs being cut, because you are required to pay your constitutional offices. But that's not a really good position to be in. As a sub-note, a joke somewhat, I said, Mayor, I don't even have enough money to hire a lawyer to sue you. Do you think that you can give me some money so I can hire a real high-priced lawyer? And he said, I got to think about that one. I'm not sure I can do that. So the solutions ahead are working with our legislative delegation, which we have met with Franklin Fall and others. We do still want to meet with mayors and be open and upfront with anyone that we're dealing with of all the other incorporated areas, the city council, all the various city councils, before we take any action whatsoever. The state of Louisiana addressing giving me more additional assistant DAs. I would ask for a minimum of 15 more, but in order to put me on par with Jefferson, I'd need 20. Put me on par with Orleans, I would need 30. Is that reasonable or not? And again, remember that if they give me that, that's only $50,000. I don't have the money to pay the rest. But the governor is looking at this for next year, and I am not the only DA that needs additional funding, and it's tough fighting against your fellow DAs for additional funds. So next, I know I've probably spent a little bit over my time, but it is important. I know it's negative, but it is what we are. We just have to figure this out along with a jail and juvenile detention center. I still believe I have the best people in the world working in my office. I wish we could do a better job quicker, but because of the volume and things that we're dealing with, we're not able to do that as I would like to do that. And I want Baton Rouge to have the best district attorney's office that it can have. I think we have it, but I think that we do not have the best funded office. We're working more for less. We will continue to do so. In the Ryan Sharp case, someone asked, why are you retrying this case when he was found guilty of life imprisonment in another parish? The answer is pretty simple, and because of your budget, it's taken you this many years. It's because that family wanted their day in court. They have a victim that died and was killed in Baton Rouge. They wanted their day in court. I have no idea what's going to happen with the appellate section on where he was convicted in East Feliciana Parish. Completely different. But bottom line is that victim wanted their day in court, and we're going to continue doing what we have to do, despite what the money may be or the time and effort it may be to devote to that. So, yes, ma'am.
Hillar, when we heard all the other budget reports, there was a common thread where we're the seat of government, and maybe it's similar to that Sharp case, where outside entities would be required to supplement that. Like in the court system, we're the seat of government, so some of our judges and different agencies are having to provide services for all of these seats of government. Does that touch you, or maybe
Yes.
only in the case of like Ryan Sharp, and do we get any revenue sharing back from those agencies, or say from that parish when you handle that case?
So, no, unlike the coroner has a statute that says that if he handles a particular body in a certain locale, he can charge that locale an amount. No other constitutional office has that at all. So the question was whether we can charge for cases we handle in Central. Zachary Baker answers no, and we will handle those cases in those parishes like we do anywhere else. Now, the point you bring up with regard to courts is that Baton Rouge is the state capital, and many, many statutes say that you must file a lawsuit in Baton Rouge, and they pay no fee to file that lawsuit, so none of that goes to the court, but the court must hear it, compared to Jefferson, compared to Orleans. So we're doing the work of the entire state in Baton Rouge only, not receiving reimbursement, and I think that's the Canizero message that I talked about. I think you will see a change in that within a year to year and a half, and that will help us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Creation of St. George impact your budget, what you're receiving?
No, to my knowledge, but some would say yes. So they still pay their sales tax and their property tax to Baton Rouge. And then from there, their money that they pay goes to the different offices. I think others will say that they're not paying their constitutional fair share and owe money. Obviously, Mayor Yates disagrees, believes that their citizens pay sufficient sales tax and property taxes to the city parish of Baton Rouge, but that they're not being allocated the way that they are. I do know that in the case, the St. George actual legal law case, court case, everyone did say they knew they were obligated to pay their constitutional fair share for constitutional offices. That is testimony that's clear, and I think that's part of the reason why that decision was made, is that they knew that they were obligated to pay their constitutional fair share. So that's a lot of the discussion that we're having now. Do they pay their share, and is it actually being allocated correctly? So that is the big question that we're dealing with right now.
How would you comment on the article in the paper yesterday?
Which one was that? What's the comment on the article in the paper? Patrick, what did you write about yesterday?
It's all really good stuff.
There was an article in the paper that only the city of Baton Rouge is paying your office.
So the city of Baton Rouge is the one that writes the check to my office. Absolutely correct. I think the issue, as we just talked about earlier, are whether the other unincorporated areas, Baker Central, St. George, Zachary, whether they're paying their constitutional fair share to the city parish of Baton Rouge to properly fund the district attorney's office, or are those funds going somewhere else that they should not go to? That, I think, is where the issue is. But I mean, he's absolutely correct. The money comes to us from the city parish, not directly from St. George, Central, Baker, Zachary.
My question is two questions.
Okay.
Please define your office's definition of homicide.
So it's a legal determination, not the one that the coroner uses. So anytime a person kills one another, in the coroner's definition, that's a homicide. It's not natural, it's not suicide, it's a homicide. Our definition of a homicide is whether it's a second-degree murder, first-degree murder, manslaughter, versus a justifiable or negligent homicide. So there is a difference in my terminology and the coroner's. One's a medical term, one's a legal term.
Thank you. And part two, does your office publish quarterly or annual data with a breakdown of those who were committing committing homicides by age, sex, race, employment status, and previous arrests?
No. We have a Commons, called a Commons forward-facing dashboard, but it does not have all of that information. At the end of the year, the advocate publishes a end of the year, actually it's January 12th or 13th, that they publish the end of the year homicide breakdown, where majority of that information is. I do not believe that it captures how many convictions they've had, whether it's defendant or victim. Overwhelmingly, the majority of the people that are killed or charged have not had any early childhood education, have probably not made it past the 6th grade, and have obviously been justice involved throughout their life for one reason or the other.
Is that report published on your website? Because
No, I don't think.
the applicant has a paywall.
Yes, they do. No, we don't break it down by that amount, but we do internally. But publishing it publicly, no. But we do give just the general information on victims and defendants.
Thank you.
We have a question back here.
As I'm looking at the general fund,
It should be 8 is what I thought the general fund was. I'm not sure, but I defer to you because you're much better than I am in looking at something. So yes, that's what we received from the general fund is $8 million. And to operate our office is very difficult. That's why I showed the one slide that had the other monies that we get, like pretrial diversion, federal funding, fines and forfeitures, fines and fees. That's where the remaining 6 million, whatever, that's where it comes from. That's where it attempted for. And those numbers have been going down, and our health care benefits have been going up. That's why we're in the position we're in. And that's been the alert that we've sounded for the last 17 years, that look at the numbers, we're coming down, everything else is going up, so we're at a really difficult position. But I'd love to meet with you later and discuss more about that.
You mentioned trust earlier. What would you say to those who have built a level of distrust from seeing major news features such as the recent Belinda Murphy that was aired on WAFB, the David Young situation that I brought up to you when you were here last time, and a perception that, well, if you're affiliated with law enforcement, we got your back. And that perception is out there. And what would you say to those who have built a level of distrust about fair prosecution when you have major features like this transpiring, appearing to be highly favorable treatment for those affiliated directly or tangentially with law enforcement?
So I can mention 2 names. Belinda Murphy, I believe, is the former state trooper.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Major feature on.
Yeah. So that lady was her first offense, DWI. She had an injury to an officer, which was a minor injury. We met with that officer. That officer, and because it was her first offense, despite the reading in our rules of pretrial diversion, she's eligible for pretrial diversion. She was allowed into the pretrial diversion program like anyone else was, with the exception I had to get the authority of the police officer to allow her in pretrial diversion, which that police officer said, I would like for her to be in pretrial diversion. She is currently in pretrial diversion like anyone else that would have been in the same position. The other name?
The other one was David Young, the one who fired the weapon going through the parking lot at the LSTA headquarters, chasing after his daughter's boyfriend.
I am not remembering that right off. Tell me, how long ago was this?
It was also covered prominently by WAFB. They had the footage of it. It was approximately 7 years ago. When I asked you about 2 or 3 years ago when you were here, you stated I could examine the file, but there was, I mean, I would have thought David Young, being the former executive director of the Louisiana State Troopers Association, would be a name that anybody would recall. But if I'm wrong in that regard, I have the footage of your prior response.
Yeah, no, I think now that you clarify what his name is, I don't recall what the outcome was that, but and I know that he went through a series of evaluations and programs. The victim in that case was an issue for us and was not cooperative whatsoever, and which was our major concern. I do remember that now.
What's going to tip the scales for you to file suit over the funding situation?
I want to make sure I exhaust every opportunity to sit down and discuss with these folks before I do anything. It could be, on the other hand, that, and once I do that, it could be, on the other hand, if I can't, and I do that, and I file something, it could mean that it brings everyone to the table quicker, and it could have that effect. But I hate suing someone. I don't have money to sue. I have a lawyer. I'm trying to find some. I have a lawyer that will do it, who's talented and can do it. I'm looking to see if some other bigger legal firms around here will give me other free lawyers or give me money to hire a fellow lawyer to do it. It's just not fun to do it, but it may be that regardless, I just have to do it for my people. And then where are they going to get the money from is going to be the other issue. But I think I have to wait to see at the end of the year where we're going to stand, whether they will cut us or not. I'm going to give them every option that I can.
We have time for one more question.
Here we go.
I thank y'all for allowing me to ask my friend of 39 years the last question. See, I'm wearing my Sunday break.
See that? That's not your age, is it?
I wish. More than twice that. But here's the thing. You know, we love and respect the work you've done, and you've got a tough job. But your job is criminal, and you're also a district attorney that's jurisdictional to every state agency. And I don't know how, you know, the budget impasse that you're dealing with right now might affect your ability to do some things in that regard. So, prior to the Bio Classic this year, the only thing I will ask you on the record right now is, who's going to win the Bio Classic? And I'm going to give you the answer to a question I'm going to ask you after the Bio Classic. And the answer, my friend of 39, is yes, Mr. Jackson. That's gone. Must go. For the sake of our children and grandchildren here in Cancer Avenue. And I believe you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the great pontificator. I get more texts from my friend, my law school friend, and anyone else that I know. Obviously, Southern's going to win the Bayou Classic, or Tony Clayton will win one way or the other. It's bottom line, but for sure, Southern's going to win. There's no doubt, no doubt.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't let them jump on off or get your lunch, or you can take with you.